Hey everyone, welcome to one of our Me First Turtle Talks. We have the incredible, fantastic Lamia Gibson with us, who is like family, Turtle Tank family, also an original turtle, an OT. We have a term for that.
Hmm.
It's been with us for 2 years now, and we've been working intimately together around some of their work. I, Lamia, you're incredible. Usually I do a little kind of informal introduction first. So one of the things that strikes me about you, Lamia, is your level of integrity and your commitment to just being more and more in your truth always, you know? And I think that's something that stands out for me with you. And it's something that's really, honestly, quite rare in this day and age. I think, I wish more people were in that space. I know people are like, oh yeah, everybody's trying to do that, but I think that there's certain people who are, whose commitment to that is really, really high, from a personal place and a collective place as well. So I thank you for that and for all the work that you've done, and all the work that is visible in what you do and how you do things. So I just want to, thank you. Um, and I want to reintroduce the Me First campaign. This is part of our Me First campaign. We're talking about Me First. We're talking about radical purpose. If you haven't plugged into our campaign yet, go ahead, go to www.turtletank.co/me first. We're talking about how we don't need to sacrifice ourselves to create worlds of radical love and freedom, that we need to, that in fact it is the fulfillment of our deepest desires, that the care for ourselves, coming as whole human beings to our movements, that is what creates worlds of radical love and freedom. And so that's what this whole Me First thing is about. It's not me only. We're not the only ones here, but me first, as in taking care of ourselves, putting ourselves at the center of what we need to do in order to bring our best work and our best gifts and contributions forward. So thank you all for joining us again. So today we have the lovely Lamia Gibson, and I introduced briefly, and I also want to point out that EJ is here, the co-founder of Turtle Tank. So I'm Samia, and this is EJ. EJ's been doing an incredible work. This Me First campaign is EJ's soul child, and really her integration of all her work and experience over the years has really culminated into this new chapter, for her, for us, for Turtle Tank, and for all of you that are joining us today as a community, working towards radical love and freedom. So thank you, EJ, for hosting this and organizing all of this as well. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce Lamia. I'm going to read a formal bio. So do that. So Lamia is an intuitive practitioner and radical entrepreneur. Lamia is a co-owner and director of 6 Degrees, a community health center in Toronto that provides effective, affordable healthcare by raising healing energy in the world, modeling an alive, whole, healthy, sustainable, and economically viable way of working and living with our precious lives. Lamia works with intuition, a skill and experience to offer the best of care as an acupuncturist, shiatsu therapist, and co-convener of grief groups. Their commitment to knowing their worth and believe that transformation is so much more possible than we were taught to believe. A prison abolitionist, parent, survivor, meditator, and artist, they aspire to live fully and right responsibility and with plenty of laughter and joy. Yes. Lamia graduated from the Shiatsu School of Canada in 2001 and from the Acupuncture Institute of SSC in 2008. They have ongoing training in the areas of acupuncture for pregnancy and labor, working with the extraordinary vessels for psycho-emotional health, and train as a Tai Chi martial artist with Master Hung. Wow. All right. So full whole human. Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
So nice to be here. I'm good. I'm sitting in our new space because 6 Degrees just moved in a very lovely, small, warm treatment room. It's very warm. Yeah, it's lovely. It's so great to be here.
It's good to be with you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you, Lamia. Thank you for taking time out to do this. Yeah.
I've been watching the other videos, and watch them late at night when I go home, and I'm like, Turtle TV time. I know you all can do a large time like this, but it wouldn't be bad if all the turtles just got on here and just kept talking about their incredible, brilliance. Yeah, it's great. So I'm honored to be a part of it.
I love it. Turtle TV, you got me on that again.
Right? That's great. Well, I mean, before we like even jump into the Me First stories, I want to just take a step back and just talk about, you've been with Turtle Tank for 2 years in the collective incubator. I'm curious why you said yes. Like, what made you join the collective incubator at the time that you did?
Yeah. So I had been with another coach who was also amazing for a couple of years before. I've been one of the co-owners of 6 Degrees, like I said in my bio, for the last 11 years. So at about year 9, we found you all. But prior to that, around year 7, I started working with another coach who also became a friend. And we did some great work together, and that started me on a path of like, okay, I need to look at the relationships that are happening between me and my business partner. I need to take another look at where my stuff is showing up and how I'm offering this work. So, working with a sliding scale is really honorable and amazing and incredible, and also needs a critical eye at certain points to be making sure that it is serving us as well as serving the people that we serve. So I'd started to do some of that work with her. And I did that for about a year, and that was great and amazing. And then we became more closer friends. I didn't need the coaching support. And then unfortunately, she died almost 2 years ago now, 2 years. So after she passed away, and kind of as she died unexpectedly, but just before she died, I was like, oh, I need another coach. I need another coach who's like gone to business school, is not afraid of what I like to call engaged economics, around like sliding scale and thinking outside of the box around connecting with people and being brave enough to talk about money up front, hold all the realities of class that are connected to money. So a business coach who's gone to business school and who's really excited about working with an alternative health clinic, who isn't afraid of my sliding scale model, our sliding scale model. And then I saw your post going by on Facebook. I was like, radical entrepreneur. That sounds like the right fit. And I saw your website and I was like, there we are. And then of course, then I learned that Samia, you're someone who went to business school in part to support alternative health clinics. I was like, really? That's amazing. And EJ, your work of doing the inner work is so integral to that outer work of like structure and form, because what I really needed and what was clear to me, although I couldn't have named it as such 2 years ago, but what's clear to me now is that I needed to do some of that inner work so that I wasn't functioning from ill health, coming from that place of, I'm a trauma survivor, I'm queer and trans in the world. I have mixed raceness in my ancestry. I also live and walk with a lot of white privilege. And so that comes with potentially, and I definitely carry it, white guilt, and functioning as a leader or as a practitioner with that irresponsibly poorly informs how I live my life. There's a lot in what I just said, but definitely what I was looking for was people who were radical, who were skilled in the areas of business, because a lot of what I had come up against was folks who were really committed to the ideas and the revolution, but didn't have a business foundation to be able to do anything with those ideas. Myself, I mostly learned about business just by doing it. And made some great choices along the way, for sure. Made some, we've managed to be, at the 9-year point when I came to Turtle Tank, I was like, oh, we really need help because we're getting bigger and bigger and I don't know what to do next. My business partner, Susanna, and I had been able to figure it out up until that point and be like, she's incredible. She's got so much intuition, so much vision, and I've got so much Taurus earth sensibility. The two of us are an incredible force, but we were at the edge and I was like, hey, Susanna, I'm looking out there and I don't know what to do next. I don't know where this goes. We're busy, we're big. And I can tell that sometimes success is what could take us down. Because I was like, we don't have the infrastructure to support what's happening now. And we need that support. And that's the environment that I came to you all in. And I say I, but I really should say we, because my business partner is like really never right next to me. She's done some of this work with you all. She's not an official like player in the tank, or she's not always here, but she's done a lot of work with each of you. So is that person who's sitting next to me, you know, in everything I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Lamia. Yeah, I just love like the full picture of like all you were bringing, all that you were looking for. And I think that that's something that other turtles have shared in terms of like wanting a space where they could bring all of themselves, like all of their radical ideas and visions, as well as all their like self-awareness and willing to go deeper in that, as well as like the sustainability piece of like, okay, how do we do this in a way that is actually going to sustain us as individuals, our families, our communities, and not have to compromise any one of those values that we hold.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to truly keep the vision going. Sustain us as individuals for sure, but also to understand economically what's needed in order to actually keep it going. Because at the point that we met you all, we were like, all right, let's throw in some more of our own energy and like keep it going that way. And that had been not the only way, but definitely a huge way that we had been as successful as we were, that Susanna and I were just looking at each other being like, okay, let's throw in some more. And like, you know, sometimes throw in some more money, but mostly throw in some more of our own energy, throw in some more of our own time to keep it going.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to be like, I don't have any more energy to throw in. I don't have any more time. I don't even know what kind of time it's going to take, you know?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Tanya.
I just wanted to say something really quickly that I think is probably kind of how we're going to unfold today with you, Lamia, is, you know, how do we live alongside capitalism, you know, without sacrificing ourselves? And, you know, I love what Aurora said in her talk, which is, you know, creating pockets, worlds of radical love and freedom, you know, versus, and there is worth in the fight. And I think there is, right? And equally important is those pockets that we create. And our ancestors and our families have been doing this for centuries, you know, for thousands of years, let me say, you know, coexisting alongside, you know, oppressive regimes and, you know, all of that stuff. And our survival has depended on that, right? And so one of the conversations that, you know, I feel like is hard to have in context where things become so, you know, left and right and this and that, and that is, you know, the nuance gets lost, you know, around how we survive and how we thrive. And you know, we're talking about this. We don't want to just survive. We want to thrive. We're here to live, to enjoy our lives, to be present with our, you know, our bodies and, you know, all of that stuff. So how do we do that and stay in integrity and be our first full selves? And we, you know, we have the means to provide that those spaces also for others, you know? And so that big question is hard to talk about in spaces where things end up being, again, so like, you know, one way or the other, you know. And part of what we're trying to carve out with Turtle Tank, and, you know, where you walk into the conversation too, is, you know, yeah, let's examine, when does sliding scale stop working? You know, you know,
or what else?
Or what else exists?
Right? Like whatever, you know, right? Part of what we've created with Turtle Tank,
right?
A whole other thing, you know. And like before there was sliding scale. I mean, also it brings to mind what Susanna shared around economy in her home community of like Chinese Canadians, Chinese community, where she's always telling me, she's like, this is just how we do it though. You just go into a place and you know, the price says 50, but if you have 30, you give 30. And the person's like, great. And if you have more one day, then you give more. And it's unspoken. But how do we even do that or bring that into, I mean, we're up in Canada. How do we bring that into a Canadian economic culture and commerce where, you know, people, even if we are anti-capitalist, we're still functioning in capitalism. Right. We don't actually pay sliding scale rent or sliding scale anything else. You know? And then how do we do that and stick to those values and that integrity and those true needs? It's not even just about values. It's like, it's real. I can't afford my own treatment if I offer it at standard rates in the way that the medicine is meant to be practiced. which also honors the practice of medicine itself, functioning in a way that it can serve people the best. Countless times people will come to me and be like, I tried acupuncture once, it didn't work for me. And I'm like, acupuncture isn't a one-time deal. It's not an Advil that won't reduce your headache right away. Acupuncture happens over time. So how do we allow the medicine to function how it's designed and has been functioning for thousands of years in a system that is running on capitalism, where there isn't any sliding scale rents? So then, you know, okay, sliding scale, sure, let's work with that. Let's change the model. You have to use the medicine differently. When that stops working, what do we do next? You know? And then we came to Turtle Tank.
Yeah. A hub for us to be thinking, EJ, sorry, one last thing, you know, really what Turtle Tank is, we're not saying, look, we have the solution. We're saying we want to think of these things differently, and we have a base framework and some, you know, base natural laws that we want to, you know, abide by and see what can unfold from that. What are the things we haven't even imagined yet, you know? And yeah, of course, we're also scanning what's happening and what, you know, there's so many different ways and so many different models and, you know, all of that. But what really works on the ground is only going to come out of practice, you know, and collective practice, and being able to examine that practice and, you know, as we say in Turtle Tank, wisdomize and integrate, you know, those practices and be able to, you know, and if we're not in our full selves, you know, our creativity is dimmed, our power to innovate is dimmed, you know, and so we can't come up with new solutions. We can't integrate things from that place, you know. So all of those things are connected. Anyway, EJ, back to you. But this is, you know, you're part of, Lamia, part of the core group that's also thinking through these bigger questions, and we're thinking through them together, you know. And the more we align with this kind of strategic center, we're able to imagine things that maybe aren't even being done or said or happening, right? And that's important. And so we're not saying we have the answer. We're saying let's align. Let's be in our power so that we can make the right decisions at every moment, you know, and that's a whole other thing than I know what needs to be done. And most of us approach, you know, especially even, you know, left and right and center, whatever, you know, people approach things like, you know, I already know, you know, versus, okay, let's be in the curiosity of the fact that we don't. And so even when people are pointing at us saying, well, you should be doing that. Well, you don't know what we should be doing. You're not here. You know, so Lamia, you're here, you know, and that's important. And as a community, we're really thinking through these things. So, you know, forget business school, you know, you know, we're using the wisdom of what we've learned on the ground, and obviously the theoretical frameworks too, to work through this work. So I just wanted to kind of add that. EJ, back to you. I'm sorry, I'm taking over a little bit, but this is
it's fine. Perfect. I think I'm getting a little bit of an echo. I think it's also just connected to how we approach our work at Turtle Tank in terms of really centering your relationship with yourself, putting that at the center before thinking about your relationships with like your intimate circle and your community and the people that you want to serve. Right. And so people come to us with this like urgency of like, wait, I'm hitting this like obstacle. I need to find an answer. What's the solution? How do we move through this? And we kind of slow it down and say, okay, let's take like a couple steps back and start with your relationship with yourself. And so if you could speak to that about your experience with Turtle Tank's work and how it supported you in beginning this practice of me first, of really centering yourself, centering your desire, anchoring in your purpose, and then moving from that place to begin to be in this exploration of what next.
Yeah, that brings to mind the work that you offer us, EJ, around those 5 questions of the 5 whys. I remember doing that about my business partnership. And my business partnership, like, it's incredible. And it comes with all the things any partnership of 11 years would come with, which is a lot of jazz, a lot of opinions, a lot of care and love. And, you know, we can lock horns sometimes, me and my business partner. And there was parts in there that were incongruent that we weren't attending to. And I needed to do those 5 whys to get to a place where I could go deeper and go underneath it, because there's layers of like race, class, age, my own counting myself out, that in addition to the Turtle Tank work, I've worked with some other practitioners around like trauma healing, and other like raising my awareness and my responsibilities and around positionality, like done some of that other work, and at the same time did those 5 whys. I can remember sitting in my home office doing those 5 whys and being like, oh, I'm not happy in this business partnership. My body doesn't want to go to that meeting. I don't want to talk like this anymore with this business partnership. And like my business partner, Susanna, and anyone out here who knows us, we're not shy to say, yeah, sometimes we really don't get along. You know, it's not always amazing and incredible. Sometimes we really have really different opinions about what should happen next. And like I said before, any partnership will, right? Any good partnership will, because it's right in the middle of our difference is where the brilliance comes out. But we've lost the support. We've like just kind of entered a bigness, like I was saying before, that was bigger than us. And there aren't a lot of mentors out there for people who are doing radical entrepreneurship. There's not a lot of guidance for what we're doing because it hasn't been done before, you know, or like, I shouldn't say that. It absolutely has been done before in a lot of ways, but it's squashed and quiet. And so even finding you all, you know, even before I found you all, I was like, Susanna, I'm sure there are people out there doing similar things to the work that we're doing. I'm sure of it. There has to be. I'm not so arrogant to think that we're the only ones, you know? And there are. There's like Third Root in Brooklyn. There was an amazing health center, I believe in Chicago, called Sage, that was operating for a bunch of years. I don't know why they closed, but they closed. There's been other community acupuncture clinics like in Toronto. There's lots of amazing work happening out there. But doing that inner work of those 5 whys was huge, was so huge. And then I had this, you know, turtle pace. I had to sit with it for a while and be like, how do I bring this up? How do I, you know, how do I know, how do I even trust that if the truth is I don't want to go to that meeting, how do I do anything more than honor that and attend to what's happening there, you know? And then me and Susanna sat down with EJ and had some sessions with EJ and got the container and the space and the listening and the wisdom of you shared with us. And that helped us come through those conversations and be like, okay, yeah, there's been some really hard things that have happened at 6 degrees that we didn't know how to deal with. We did our best with at the time, but we didn't know, and we didn't ask for more support, and we didn't have more support. And we still need to attend to some of those things. But now it's like, okay, we know we have to attend to some of those things. And that repairs our relationship enough so that we can be like, okay, we're attending to those things. Great. We're back in connection together. Okay, what are we going to do with the economic realities of this place? And I say that and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm an artist. And doing that inner work got me to the place where I was like, oh, if I'm not dancing, if I'm not writing, I am nothing. I feel like nothing. And if I'm a nothing person offering 6 degrees, then I'm, like you say, Samia, then I've got nothing to give, you know? And, you know, we just moved. It's been incredibly busy. I have a 7-year-old. I also have a 12-week-old who I didn't, which is why I can sit here in front of you all today. So it's been like hectic in the last while. But just this week, I just said this morning, I was talking to one of my colleagues and I was like, oh, my 4-day work week is actually here. The plan that I made, you know, in the last couple of years to get to a place where I'm at the clinic 4 days a week so that I can have time for a family. So that, you know, what's the 5-day work week anyways? What's this 40-hour work week anyways? Like, what's that all about? But, you know, work smarter, not harder. But I just dawned on me this morning. I'm like, huh, you know, this Friday, sure, I'm going to go clean up some stuff at the old space. But I'm like, by January, it stands to be possible that I will work 4 days a week and have space for an art practice and have time for my 2 children and time for my partner and time for my whole life. And that person showing up to offer the world acupuncture and shiatsu is way more solid than like trying to make it all fit in together and make it work. And then as a co-owner and director of 6 Degrees, which is another role, I have to be whole. I can't do it unwhole because then I make mistakes and I, you know, lose my sense of responsibility, or I'm over responsible, or I'm functioning just out of trauma, or all of those things, right? And that, you know, that takes the support of other professionals to, you know, hold me steady, like the resiliency toolkit. That's another tool. Be steady and be like, oh, it's been a day. I'm just gonna do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Were you going to say something, Samia?
No, I was wondering if you wanted to say something.
No, I mean, I was just appreciating, thank you for sharing that, and just like the specific like details of, you know, the exercises you went through, the questions that came up, all the different levels of work that tending to that relationship with yourself like brought up for you. And I'm curious if you could speak a little bit more, like you've talked a little bit about your business partnership and the transformation you went through there, your 4-day work week being like within your reach right now. Like, what are some other like changes that you've seen in your life since really practicing Me First?
Well, with Turtle Tank, I've gone through this before, but I'm in another round of recovery, which I think is important to mention. It's not something I talk about a ton. But yeah, I've been used like a drug user and alcoholic since I was a very small kid. Like started smoking when I was 10 and drinking when I was 11. And sometimes I say that I'm like, whoa, because it's young. Now I have a 7-year-old and I'm like, whoa, if she was drinking in 4 years from now, I'd want to know about it. But yeah, like my father was an alcoholic, alcoholism runs in my family, and I've had success before about being in recovery. Like recovery is about relapsing and doing all kinds of things. But so I've quit many times before, but along with centering myself first, with some other practices, all that lining up together means that I just have way more tools and skills and commitment to, in the moments where I'm like super stressed out or, you know, I don't even notice that I'm physically reaching for anything else. Even if the urge inside of me, my like, you know, habitual response, which is like, man, I'd like to just drink a glass of wine right now. That would be so nice. And like, that's not even quite a craving for me. A craving is more like, oh, I'm at the liquor store, you know? That's my cravings show up. It's like all of a sudden I'm in the place doing the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really, centering myself first meant that I had to get support for recovery again and be like, okay, more support recovery. And I'm like a super, you know, I'm one of those super functional drug users, alcoholics, you know, I don't even say that often, but I just really want to drive it home for people that centering myself first in this way with all the supports that I've had has meant that being in recovery again this time is, do I say easier? It's just more solid and it's more sound and grounded. And that comes along, I know I keep saying it like, I guess it's because there's like a universe of stars that have happened in my life in the last couple of years that comes from me asking for more help. And also multiple avenues through which that help has come. That's meant that my center, I believe it, you know, like in my bio, I say I am a commitment to knowing my worth. And that comes from a practice called generative somatics that I work with a practitioner with. And it's still connected to that me first. And really understanding if I put my oxygen mask on first, I will be better for the people. And that, you know, and deeply getting underneath that to be like, no, centering myself isn't selfish, it's of my responsibility, you know, and not like my responsibility, but it's within my responsibility in relationship with other people. I want to show up as a whole person, whether I'm actively using drugs or not, because there's loads of ways that we can show up as whole people and still be using whatever substance it is that helps us cope, right? Because I've been a whole person up until the last 160 days or whatever it's been. And that's really important to say. But yeah, I think I lost my track a little bit.
Yeah, no, I was curious, like when you were talking about how like reaching out for support with your recovery this time just felt a little more solid. If that was rooted in, for me, what I found is before, I would reach out for help and support, but there was this underlying thing that was like, oh, there's something wrong with me or something broken in me or something weak in me that I need this support. And then like the practice of like centering myself first and really sitting with the value of like who I am and like what I bring. It's like asking for that support is more like, I deserve the support. Like, it's okay that I need the support. I can lean into the support. And it's not connected to like there's some deficit in me or something I need to fix, but almost like, oh, I need to take care of myself. Like, I'm worth and deserving of this care. Mm-hmm. And I was curious if that was like, if you've noticed something similar for yourself too.
Totally. Yeah. And it makes me think about like being in the community of turtles and being on group calls and just having that reflection back, like one, not being alone, which I get a little bit. Like, I work at 6 Degrees. I really want you both to come here one day. You know, yeah. But I work at 6 Degrees. It's an amazing place. Not, you know, I contribute to it being that, but it is an amazing place because of the people who show up here, from clients to practitioners to workers, whoever. So I feel like I'm connected to a community of people who are doing really similar work, who are very dedicated. And at the same time, they're like, me and Suzanne are the only owners of this place. And so me and her and me in relation to Turtle Tank, finding a community of other people, also organizing their own businesses, doing all of that work and getting the reflection back from them about, like, not from an ego place, right? Like, of course my ego is in here and I'm trying to tend to it and be like, hi, ego. But really, really connecting in a community of practitioners, of radical entrepreneurs, and hearing other people's stories, being like, wow, okay, yeah, we're doing this, you know? Like, in those moments where Suzanne and I, a couple times in our life together, have looked at each other and had to look and go, oh, the 6 Degrees ship is sinking. Are we going to bail it out, or are we going down? What's it going to be? And it's been us two do it together. And not like I've looked at anybody in the tank and been like, this is what's happening. But I don't feel like it's just us two anymore. Even if she doesn't know, you know, I'm Kali Hashiki, you know, like, even if she doesn't know any other people in the tank, it's no longer just the two of us. And I would think my best guess would be that she feels that way too. Like, calls, like one-on-one calls with each of you. You know, when she misses a call with me and Samia, she's like, oh, I missed it. I really just like want to feel that connection to something bigger than us. Yeah, it's so important. We're doing incredible, no matter what the business is, we're doing something, even if it's alongside capitalism, we're doing something that is changing the world. And doing that alone, you know, it makes it really, really hard. Really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we deserve knowing each other, and the systems that keep us down and keep us oppressed don't want us to know each other. Want to know, you know, they are working pretty hard at making it hard for us to be connected across all the ways that every oppression shows up, across structural influences that mean that we don't connect with each other for whatever reason. So they win if we stay disconnected.
Yeah. I always say this, EJ, do you mind if I...
Go ahead.
You know, Lamia, again, thank you for your openness and, you know, just sharing openly like this about your experience. And, you know, you and I always talk about this too. It's like, who is it serving for us not to take care of ourselves, for us not to connect, for us not to sit in these circles? So who is it serving really? You know, for us not to make money. Who is it serving? You know, if you continue to ask that question, and the system is designed to make us feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. It's designed because then you know, if we take care of ourselves, we're not buying pharmaceutical products, and we're not buying, you know what I mean, all of that stuff. We're not, you know, buying stuff that we don't need. You know, we're not. I mean, the system depends on us being unhealthy. It depends on us being disconnected. It depends on us, you know, all these different things. And so those very simple acts, and then also, you know, those acts of whatever, it's self-care, not for the sake of self-care, as you talk about, EJ, and we can talk about this, you know, but for the sake of the betterment of the whole, you know, and engaging in challenging relationship, which I think, you know, we talk about radical enterprises being an ecosystem of relationships, right? That's really what it is. And maybe EJ can speak to that a little bit. But the way I see it, and what you're speaking to, Lamia, is the more we expand and the more work we want to do, the more support we need, right? On an individual and a collective level, right? You know, it's kind of like, you know, if I have like a 2-person team, I need, like, you know, 3 therapy sessions a month. If I have like a 10-person team, I need 15 therapy sessions a month, and 17 hours of meditation. Right. So the more that you have, the more that we have on our plates, like, and the more responsibilities we have, and the more impact we want, the more support we need. And it's counterintuitive, and it's like, oh no, we're supposed to be these like superhumans, but in reality, no, we're extremely vulnerable, and we need the protection, the support, the filling up, and I was telling EJ this recently. I was like, I'm not filling up enough. I kept saying that to you. I'm not filling up enough. Like, that's what's happening is I'm, and not in I have my own practices on myself, but I'm lifting into this other level, and I need all of my stuff to lift with me. I need more, not less, more of everything, more support. And so I don't know, EJ, I'd love to hear, maybe thoughts about that too, as we're engaging in this. But anyway, and then stop.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like what you're speaking to is how we kind of have this idea of like, oh, there's this plan, there's this like self-care plan we need to like discover and come up with. And, we read different magazines and it's like, oh, all the top people and top performers wake up at 4 a.m. and they do this and they do that. Maybe that's what I need to do,
Right.
And like this practice of really centering yourself and beginning to tune in to like your body and how it's speaking to you and the messages that you're getting are really around like supporting us with creating what self-care looks like for us, and realize that shifts like during different seasons in our lives, during different time periods, like during, depending on how sick we are, what we're up to, trying to build in the world, like that needs to shift and change. And so this idea of like you're saying, if you have this bigger team, then you kind of need to shift your support system is like true for everything. For all areas of my life, it's like being like, okay, recognizing like, oh, I'm in recovery right now. That means I need like a different level set of care. And maybe like I need to pull different people in, or, oh, we're going through this move and transition. So we need this kind of care and support. And so being able to be in relationship with ourselves and continually like listening to ourselves is what allows us to create this like strategy around how we're going to care for ourselves, given the world that we live in, given all that we're fighting against, and being able to make the right decisions about what to fill ourselves up with when.
You remind me the moment wound up with some work and there's right? The turtle tank work could be realizing this is a part of and I've really the idea of myself. Can you hear me?
EJ, did you hear? I want to make sure that we heard it. The last bit. Was it clear to you? Oh, okay. I totally missed it, Lamia. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. What I'm trying to get at the trauma healing and the turtle tank work and the stuff around recovery and the me first contribution to that is connected to me saying, oh, this isn't something that's going to go away. So these experiences that have happened in my life that mean that I reach for these coping mechanisms that are skillful, incredibly skillful, but stopped serving me. Means like my nervous system, of course I believe it can heal. I practice medicine, of course I believe we can heal. But part of what I also believe is that we have to integrate around the realities that have happened in our lives. So I have to not pretend that, certain, like even moving, it brings up all this grief about my dead mother, and like that can really spark off a need to drink or smoke or do whatever. And the me first aspect helped me go, oh no, I don't just need to do this for now, for like the first 3 months of recovery to make sure that I'm covered, and then I'll be fine, as if my nervous system will miraculously change overnight and I'll be a different person. It really helped me center and be like, oh no, this is who I am. And I resisted the like naming myself as a survivor for a really long time because I felt like it limited me, which isn't true for anybody else. I just speak for myself. And I came up in my mind, I call myself a thriver. I try to because it just works more for me around holding the realities. And part of why I didn't want to identify it is because I didn't want to admit that any of those things had happened, because that's really painful. But centering myself meant I got the support that I needed, meant that I did ask for more help, meant that I did have more help to move through that somatic process of healing trauma, and looking at my work life then and my whole life and being, how am I going to make a life for myself that is harmonious as it can be for the truth of who I actually am, not for the person who I want to be, not for the person who I wish I could be if none of these things had happened to me and if the world was different. But how do I make a life for myself that supports the whole of who I am and still do good work and still be a good parent, a good enough parent, and still, have some kind of space for art and joy and laughter and not worry about my integrity so damn much, just trust myself that I'm going to do good work. Because one of the driving forces in my life is my deathbed. I grew up as a kid with people dying around me, due to cancer, not in the horrors of cancer. And it really informed me as a young kid. I was like, wow, I can remember being on the playground and looking around and being like, none of you know that we die. So why are you acting like this? Why are you mean to each other? Don't you know that we die? And I don't want to get to my deathbed and look back and be like, gee, I worked really hard. I will say that because I have worked really hard, but I don't know anything I've ever done. And my working class survivor upbringing will make it for sure. I guarantee I will have looked back and say, wow, I worked really hard. But I also want to say I had fun and I tried to live a whole life and I tried to, not just do good in the world, but really stay connected and ask for the help for my personal journey to really come forward and make some difference, put some balance into the parts of life that are atrociously out of whack, Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
We created pockets of freedom and love together.
Mm-hmm.
That's, what I hear, what you're saying, kind of echoing back what Aurora said, that's what I want. I want to be free, in all these different ways. I want to be love in all these different ways, and I keep thinking that. And when you were talking, I was like, yes, that's what I want to say on my deathbed, and all this other stuff is just an outgrowth of that pursuit, right? Mm-hmm. And for me, at least, and just kind of echoing and resonating with that. Sorry, EJ, again, I want to come back to you. There's something you wanted to share about that.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking again, this theme of death and dying is coming up in relationship to me first, in relationship to our radical purpose and what we're here to do, in relationship to this idea of creating worlds that are anchored and rooted in love and freedom. And and I love how you started speaking about it, and I'm curious what that relationship has been like for you in terms of as you're practicing me first, how has that shifted your relationship to your purpose? Mm-hmm. And then what are the connections you're seeing with that and the world that you're creating at 6 degrees, in community, mm-hmm. and then what that's going to contribute and inspire mm-hmm. In the rest of the world. Yeah. I know that's a big question, so.
That's okay. I like those big questions. Mm-hmm. Something that comes to mind is making room for mistakes and not being perfect. Also connecting with humility and not a true and asking for help around how to stay humble, but not count myself out humble. Not the humble that's oh no, not me. Oh no, I'll get out of your way. Humility. So fully stepping into my power or learning how to or daring to by being in that me first place. And at the same time going, okay, how do I not let this power take over? In the last couple of years, another thing that has been real in my life is that I've transitioned. So started taking some testosterone and transitioned to some kind of mid-range gender experience that's really fluid, or hopefully it's really fluid in the world. But it comes with more masculinity. And at a hormone chemical level, it comes with more testosterone, which that's a whole other conversation. But connecting that me firstness, my radical purpose, while going through such big changes in my life personally, and transforming or contributing to the transformations that are happening at 6 degrees, being able to stay connected to like my radical purpose is greater than me. And I have to ask for help to know how to do all of this because I'm going to make mistakes. I should make mistakes. We should make mistakes. And like trying to contribute to the culture of 6 degrees in a way that's like that doesn't answer all the questions for everybody and doesn't, you know, Susanna has said this for years. She's like, we can't make a safe space for every single person here. It's not possible because we don't live in a safe world. Like, you know, part of me wants to, you know, and I'm curious about that part of me, but part of me wants to be like, screw that. I want everyone to walk through these doors and feel safe. But it's true, I can't control the world.
Yeah.
I really can't. All I can do is connect with, if I can control anything at all, it's myself. And that's it. I can't even control my children, and I shouldn't, you know? I certainly shouldn't. And the only thing I can control is how I choose to do my life. And coming back to that radical purpose, it's in the radical approach of, you know, a radical me first, as opposed to, well, me first, you know, like my, the truth of how white supremacy is working in the world means that I do get put first a lot of the time. And me not spending time with that and understanding it is irresponsible. I'm, you know, me kind of bowing away from that or being like, oh no, go ahead. That like false humility, that's not going to be what's needed. And like being able to be like, oh, I don't know. And I have to ask experts and professionals how to understand how white supremacy is playing out in my life as a white person or a person with white privilege. Because at the same time, I have a mixed experience. So like in my home, in my family of origin, I have the experience of being brown. And that informs my existence and that reality of like, you know, in the world, I get all the white privilege. In my home life, I'm othered, you know, or not home life now, but my childhood, I was othered. And I'm like, oh, that carefully. And that's connected to my radical purpose. And then how do I not take up too much space about that, but at the same time not put myself out? And it's like those practices that have in part come up through Turtle Tank help me find that center point again and again, you know, and let go of something being fixed and eternally right and accept that, okay, I'm learning this now. Okay, oh, let me attune to my sense of integrity. Yeah, no, this doesn't feel quite aligned. I need to go and ask this expert or this professional about this thing. And then like, oh no, well, let me trust myself too. You know? Yeah, you all really make so much space for holding the complexities and without offering answers. And that's, you know, I mean, you definitely have some solutions, but without being like, this is the way to do it always, you know? You really hold space for the uniqueness of each person who shows up, which is part of where working with the mystery works, right?
I love what you said. Could you speak to this whole thing of safety and then there were some things around like the power and control that we talk about often, that the difference between power and control. But EJ, I know you have this take on safety that or the illusion of safety and this conversation that Susanna and Lamia are having, you know, and I want everybody to just hear all of the complexity that all the things that we talk about that come up in this work as human beings, you know, that come up in the world, come up in the microcosm of our businesses and our enterprises, you know. And in fact, when we are in relationship and in good relationship with each other, we can examine those things at a microcosmic level in community, in loving space. I mean, I say safe space because I don't believe there is such a place, you know, in terms of the world itself. But you know, we're creating pockets where we can make mistakes and we can recover from those mistakes and we can learn from those mistakes and we can grow from those mistakes and earn wisdom from those mistakes. And EJ disappeared for a moment, so EJ comes back. There you go, you're back. And you know, so EJ, I'm curious about that relationship to. I know you talk quite a bit about this whole safety thing, but that's what's important to me and interesting to me about those microcosms, those enterprises, those organizations that we create, is that they become, you know, spaces for healing, you know, and they're not going to be, in my opinion, safe in the way that we want things to be safe, right? So, EJ, could you, I don't know, speak to that for a moment? I just love your thoughts about that.
I'm not even sure. We've had so many different conversations about this. I'm not sure which aspect of the conversation you're referring to. But I think that, you know, a couple thoughts come to me. I think the first is how all the ways that I've tried to find safety and community, you know, and being like, okay, maybe if I'm in a space with other like people of color and it's just us, that will be safe. Okay, maybe if it's all like Black women, then that will be safe. Okay, maybe if it's all black queer women, then that will be safe. And trying to like find these pockets of like, of what I think is going to be like the safest space for me. And inevitably, there's always going to be some difference that comes up, something that, you know, we're not on the same page about. And then all of a sudden that feels unsafe and like, you know, scary. And realizing how much of what I determined is like what felt safe or not was really an internal job, and also largely unconscious, right? Based on our histories of trauma, our family histories, like that's where those ideas of like what feels safe and what doesn't feel safe like live in like an unconscious way. And so that in reality, like what you're saying, like the real safety is one, like our relationship to ourselves, our ability to like notice when we're feeling unsafe, and then having tools to bring ourselves back to safety so that we can sit in the discomfort enough to have the conversations that we need to have in these different spaces. And how that is like what creates, like that's really what we're looking for when we're looking for safety, is we want a space where we can feel free to tell the truth of what's coming up, where we can be messy, where we can make mistakes and know that we're not going to be like executed or like, you know, abandoned or rejected or pushed out or humiliated publicly. Like that's really the safety we're looking for. It's like, okay, can I be myself here? Can I make mistakes here? Can I just share what I'm feeling or share what I need? And are you going to be able to hear it without rejecting me or pushing me away or trying to control me or make me like be different? And I think that what surprised me is that I think I assumed that radical spaces were automatically those kind of spaces, and realized like just as in mainstream culture, also in radical culture, there is like there isn't always like that safe space to just be ourselves. Like there is kind of like, well, you need to be on board and you need to have read this like Marx article, otherwise you're not quite like down with this. And there are these like ideas that we have about what, you know, how people need to be for them to be okay and be in our group. And I think like what we are part of what drove us to create like Turtle Tank was like a space where people could come and like they could be radical in the way they wanted to be radical. There wasn't like, oh, you need to like have this, follow this 10-point plan in order to fit our idea of like what being radical means or what your radical work needs to look like. And be able to be in the conversations of like, okay, this is what I want. This is my history. This is where I'm struggling. How can we like figure this out together? And yeah, so that's the intention we had when we created Turtle Tank. And so it's like great to hear that that's how you've experienced it too, and experienced the community that we've created in that way. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to, Samia, in terms of.
Yeah, that is. I want to ask. Do you mind if I ask Lamia a question? I know we're going a little into time, but I Lamia, you know, you're somebody that's so aware of everything that EJ is talking about, you know, in terms of, you know, the concern around the kind of community and space that you're creating. And that concern alone, you know, the level of attention that you bring to that is commendable. And I also, you know, you and I have been talking about leadership, and we've been talking about like what is leadership, and the relationship to the difference between power and control, and the relationship, you know, between, you know, and all of that wrapped up in the idea of safety and being who you are and still being able to be a leader. I was curious if you could speak to that a little bit, that journey. And I know you're kind of like, you know, in a emerging in a certain kind of way, in a different role in your leadership, you know, right now. And, you know, and whatever you want to share from that obviously is, you know, game, but I'd love to hear about that.
About how I'm sitting
with the question of leadership, and what is leadership for you, given who you are, and some of the questions that are coming up around like safety and power and control and some of those things.
Yeah. So definitely with me as who I am and how I am positioned in the world. It's a multi-sided. I'm both an absolute novice in support.
Did you lose Lamia for a second?
Yeah, I think they're frozen.
Okay. Can we exit them out and have them come back in?
Yeah.
We just got to the juicy part.
I know that was like.
So
checking.
There we go. Oh, you're back.
Oh, you lost me?
We lost you and we brought you back. I guess you came back.
Oh, okay.
So start from the top.
From the top. Okay. From the top. Okay. Good. That just gave me a chance.
Yeah. Maybe we need.
I'm not anymore. I can say, before you lose me again, I would say I'm sitting with the both end of it, both being a novice and being like, wow, there are some things that I did not know about leadership that I really need to attend to as who I am in this body, in this lifetime, at this current moment in time. And at the other side, I'm like, oh, there are some things that I really, truly know. And I'm not going to pretend I don't know them. And I'm also going to work on not being a know-it-all about it and really just sit with being like, okay, yeah, I do have 11 years of experience, and I am the kind of Taurus brain that does get things organized, and I am a strategist. Oh, I'm a strategist. And understanding that helped me on my team be like, oh, that's what's going on. You know, you're not a strategist. That's fine. I need another strategist to like go at it with our brains, you know, who I have on my team, which is great. And then I'm like, okay, great. I can be a strategist, and that's a part of my leadership. But like teasing out some of that, because leadership can come, especially in a body with a lot of whiteness, especially with masculinity showing up and being able-bodied and the places where my privileges sit. That can be a tricky game. That power corrupts. I've known that for time, you know, like I've learned it over time. Power really does corrupt. But at the same time, to deny my power feeds the greater powers. So he's sitting in the both end of it and being like, I'm not going to count myself out. And I'm also going to check myself, and not from a policing place, which is why I named being, and as I was doing my bio, I was like, what is the truth of the roots of one of the roots of where my like way of being comes from? And I was like, oh, prison abolition. My like early activist days of prison abolition, and why abolition makes sense to me is because it's about not punishing and not policing each other. And, you know, what I'm learning more about, you know, Turtle Island indigenous practices of transformative justice and like I'm like, oh, that's what makes the most sense, because that's how I want to, that's how my being is attuned with, and that's also how I want to be in the world. And so in leadership, you know, trying to be skillful, trying to be open, keep my heart open, work with people whose practices keep my heart open and keep me responsible without wagging their finger at me, you know, but are like deeply committed to true justice, or not true justice, but like deeply committed to justice. Um, yeah, so both a novice and not knocking myself under the bus, and really, you know, just know being working. I'm even stumbling over my words, but like leaning into being comfortable with filling out a position of leadership and trusting my integrity and asking for help, all along the way. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it too, I also see other leaders and I see other people doing it this way. So I watch you two learn over the last 2 years. You know, I mean, I don't know you before then. I know you've been at this for longer than 2 years, but I've gotten to see you grow as leaders in the last 2 years. And then I'm like, oh, we are in this together. You know, like you transformed the program. I can't remember, maybe a year ago. And you're like, we're changing it because it needs to change. And I'm like, wow, vulnerable leadership. This is awesome, you know, because it means that I can come back to my team and be like, I totally made a mistake. I shouldn't have told you that this was going to happen at this time, which is my, you know, ongoing mistake that I keep making. I'm like, it'll happen by this time, you know, and then it doesn't, because life doesn't work that way. But I can do that better because I can see you come into your own, you know, again and again, because we're forever evolving. Like we're never fixed, we're never done. There's no final destination, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah. Go ahead.
If people, you know, people want to know, I just encourage anybody out there to, you can message me directly if you want to know more about some of the other practices I work with too. And if you join Turtle Tank, just a plug for Turtle Tank World, then you'll hear about it too, because you'll talk to me more. And these incredible. Yeah.
Awesome. EJ, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, I was just read together, like just the different layers of me first, like the layer of like centering yourself, prioritizing like your needs, listening to what your body's telling you, centering your purpose, like living from that place. There's the me first that's like, oh, I need to put my oxygen mask first. I need to take care of my healing first before I can do this out in the world. And then there's the me first of like the leadership piece of like, okay, regardless of what you all are talking about here, regardless of like your views of like punishment and how that's like playing out and how you're treating or how you're responding to this situation, like me first, I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to live from my values. I'm going to live into like, you know, that world that I want to see that is able to like hold people and hold conflict, hold harm in this way that's like reparative and like loving and just. And even though that's not what everyone else is talking about, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm going to bring, like that level of leadership, and how that level of leadership is rooted in those first two practices of me first. And yeah, and that's what gives you the ability to be like, I'm still worthy, even if I don't know what I'm saying. I'm still worthy, even if I make a mistake. I'm still worthy, even if like this is messy and it's not perfect. Like we have these like outdated ideas of leadership that's like, being a leader means you're supposed to know everything and you're supposed to always have the answer and you're supposed to make other people do things that they don't want to do. Like, and, you know, and being able to like step away and allow this like true leadership to step up, that's really about like vision and like living into your vision and, you know, acting from your vision, regardless of the conditions around you, regardless of like people around you. And, you know, and how connected that is to this idea of centering yourself and taking care of yourself and taking care of like doing your healing work, and seeking like support and leaning into support. Like that, the dance of all of this is what allows that leadership to like emerge, you know? Yeah. Yeah. So, Tanya, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. I think, you know, I love that you're, again, so conscious about this, you know, Lamia, this kind of those two sides, you know, where you're like, okay, I'm holding, you know, I'm a novice and I know stuff, you know, and that's really the most, you know, objective, subjective, I guess we can be, you know, clear-eyed about the balanced truth of who we are as human beings is we're both of those things all the time, right? And you know, I'm thinking about, you know, some of the conversations we had about the difference between like moving away from like managing others and controlling others and into, you know, you said power corrupts. And in Turtle Tank, you know, I like to draw that distinction between power and control, you know, as I think real power is love, you know, and like real power. Like when we come, like that kind of power that like brings people in and transforms and evolves and grows and all of that stuff, and you know, maybe even kills off things that don't need to be there, you know, all of that stuff. That's like that kind of power is one that I think we're surrendering into, you know. And I think the places where for me power starts to corrupt in that sense is when it turns into control, you know, where we're trying to manipulate or control situations because we think we know better. But the kind of leadership that we're talking about is like you're saying with EJ, and oftentimes we set up situations for ourselves where we link up with people who want us to know better, you know, because they don't want to do the work of thinking through this stuff, you know, about certain things. And part of good leadership is being able to remember that we don't know, right? And that we're co-creating, right, with the mystery. And we know what we know, we don't know what we don't know. And how do we then lead from that place? And how do we draw people to us or bring people with us, or, you know, that are also leaders in their own rights, and they're also, you know, understand that kind of leadership. That the truth is, like, and just like with my team, you know, I was like, we're going to launch on the 7th. Oh, shoot, we're going to launch on the 14th. Oh, never mind. We're going to launch on the 27th. And one of the first things we say, you know, when we bring someone on board, and when, you know, when EJ and I, you know, talk about this together, is we say, look, this is a moving milestone. So you better stick with it. You're ready for this or you're not, you know, and this is the stage that we're in. And this is the reality of being a leader in this stage. And, you know, and these are the conditions within which you can, you know, bring your thoughts to us. We're open, our doors are open, our ears are open, you know, all of that stuff. And also simultaneously remembering, like you said, and this is a fine line to walk, I do know some things, you know, and if someone like just walked in yesterday and goes, you know what, I think this should be blue. And you're like, yeah, we actually went through all the colors already. And, you know, there's a reason why it's not blue. You know, and so how do we sit? The big question for me constantly is, how do I sit so much in my power that, one, I don't have to prove anything to anyone, that I know when to bend and when to push, that I know when to, you know, all those like kind of micro nuance, you know, responses that we're learning, instead of, you know, there's, you know, white and there's black, you know, whatever. What are all the colors of the rainbow in between? You know, and all the different ways in which we can respond to things, you know, that to me is about like the nuance of sitting in power and being in power. And that's very much to do with purpose, very much to do with, you know, me first, very much, you know, all of that stuff. And so like, for me, I have a practice. The very first thing I do before I think about what someone else did and all that is, what did I do here? Right? What did I do to draw a situation to me, you know, of sorts or whatever. And so the practice of me first, and you know, where am I out of alignment with my purpose here? Where did I, you know, being able to start with that and then go, okay, and still, you know, and come from that place and watch everyone else kind of emerge into their own me firstness, you know. And that's been like a very informative thing for me in terms of leadership and how I practice leadership in my own like work. But yeah, I love your new your exploration, your sitting, your meditations on that, you know, and that's what makes you, I think, in my eyes, a really amazing leader, you know, and so that's and thank you for, you know, your vulnerability and sharing your stories in the way that you did. And, you know, we're not infallible as leaders. We're not indestructible. We're not, you know, we're human, you know, and we need just as much, if not more care, you know, afforded to us as we, you know, examine ourselves, as we put ourselves out there, as we like, you know, carve out untaken paths, as we, you know, all of that stuff is like, as Aurora said to us too, like, we need to protect ourselves, right? We need to protect this work, you know? So I don't know if Lamia's been frozen this whole time. I hope not. But are you there with us? I think they might have been frozen.
Okay.
So having a bad internet day. So having them come back. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, it seems like you're still frozen. So I want to just take a moment to check in with the people who've been here watching and commenting. Thank you so much for your comments, for showing up. Thanks for letting us know about the echo, Andrea, and glad that you're here getting to watch these series and really hear these stories. Like, that's something I really value about our community at Turtle Tank, is the willingness to be raw, be honest, be vulnerable, and talk about like the truth of what it really is going to take for us to create like this new world that we're committed to creating, and being willing to examine ourselves, look at our own stuff, look at the places that we still have to heal, look at what we've internalized. And so I just want to thank Lamia for just their openness, their vulnerability, and just how deeply they shared with us today. And I want to invite you all who have been watching, either watching live or who are watching the replay, if you could leave a comment and let us know, like, what's one insight, what's one of the gems that was dropped today that you're sitting with that really had an impact on you or is bringing up thoughts for you. Like, we'd love to hear that. We want this to be a conversation. And and we're just really grateful that you're taking your precious time out to be here and be part of this. And so, oh, there we go. Lamia is going to hop back on. And hey, Lamia. I just went through thanking you for just your vulnerability and your honesty and all that you shared, and just like what that makes available for all of us who are like watching and listening and hearing you, and what like your truth like opens up in us that we may not have been able to see on our own. So thank you for being here with us and sharing all that you did. And wanted to give you an opportunity, if you know you have things that you want to share. I'm sure people are curious to like learn more about your work, learn more about 6 Degrees. Sure. You know, where can people find you and learn more about what you're doing and what you're building?
Yeah, you can find me at Dundas and Dufferin in Toronto, Canada, at 6 Degrees. You can find me at our 6 Degrees website, which is 6degreeshealth.ca. That's SIX health. 6 Degrees, sorry, SIX degrees health.ca. I'm on Facebook as Lamia Gibson. You can find me there. Yeah, and the work that I do, I mean, now I get to, you know, I'm a business owner and a director of 6 Degrees and co-owner and a practitioner. And I've been practicing alongside business owning. And this whole plan that you all have helped me with so much is for me to practice more. So I can see it. January, I'm like practicing more. And being able to, you know, have, instead of organizing and doing business stuff so much, I have time to like sit with my books and study more. So I want to say, EJ, too, I think this Me First launch, while I know that all of Turtle Tank is involved in it, it's absolutely incredible to have done the inner work with you that has gotten to me to my own Me First. And then to obviously be doing that work too, to get to this place where now Turtle Tank is launching from that place, from your soul child. And it's phenomenal. And like the structural support, the conversations, the growth that I witness in both of you and in all of us in the tank is deeply, deeply transformative. And so I just want to say thank you to you. Thank you to you both. And thanks to everyone who's already in the tank, and anybody else out there who's thinking about it. Go for it. You know, no time like the present.
Thank you so much.
Lamia. Yeah, Lamia, you've been instrumental.
And it's called The Location Transformation, and you can find it on Facebook if you connect to me, or look up 6 Degrees Community Acupuncture. You'll find it if you want to support us in our move. Go for it.
Just to say one more time, if in case people missed it, because I know we start talk together, but there's a fundraiser going on for 6 Degrees. It's a transformation of space and relaunching into a new location. And if you've been running a business for a while, you know the challenge of that, and you know having extra support and extra scaffolding and infrastructure is extremely important. So let's push this community project forward and participate in, you know, challenging the conventional medical industrial complex by supporting, you know, 6 Degrees and institutions like 6 Degrees that need to thrive, you know, for us to be able to have those models, you know. So
thank you.
Is posted here at 6degreeshealth.ca. So please go ahead and support Lamia as well. And Lamia, it's been such an honor and pleasure, and it's been really humbling working with you over the last couple of years and watching your journey and having you watch our journey. And so thank you so much. Thank you for being an original turtle.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Keep the comments coming. We'll be checking the comments afterwards. And as Lamia generously offered, if you want to reach out to them personally to ask more questions, go to their website, learn about their work. And we'll be back later on today with another Me First story with another original turtle, Teresa Lau. And so please come back and join us at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.